Are you in communion with a pope who worships demons? Stick around to find out.
You're watching Reason and Theology Live, a show dedicated to charitable discussions, debates, interviews, commentary, and analysis. The show concentrates on theological topics, historical matters, and philosophical problems with content ranging from introductory material to in-depth examinations. And now, your host, Michael Lofton.
Well, it's been 3 years to the day since the Vatican Gardens ceremony with Pope Francis. This is a ceremony, again, October 4th, 2019, that has caused quite a bit of controversy. I've put out my perspective on it before. I'm not a fan of it. I think that it gave the appearance of idolatry. I don't think that it was idolatry, but I think it gave that appearance to the average person. And so for that reason, I think it was imprudent. And it certainly gave rise to scandal because it could easily be misinterpreted. So once again, I think it was imprudent. That being said, I do not believe that Pope Francis or the people present at the ceremony were guilty of demon worship, and I want to show you why. I want to go over the actual ceremony itself. I want to share my screen, and I want to play a clip from it to demonstrate why I take this position. So once again, I think it was imprudent. I don't think it was a good idea to have the ceremony, but I do think that people also went too far with it and made claims that they should not have made. So they were rash in their judgments and claiming that Pope Francis or that these people here at the ceremony were guilty of idolatry. And it, unfortunately, 3 years later, still continues to be the dominant theme among Catholics. That is the claim that the Pope is guilty of idol worship. And I want to ask some pointed questions here in just a little bit after we watch the video. If you actually do believe Pope Francis is guilty of idolatry, stick around because I have some questions for you that you really need to consider. But let's first examine the video. The audio isn't as loud as perhaps I would like it. Let me see if I can maybe try to boost the audio real quick. Let's see here. Well, is it really up all the way? Wow. Golly. It's already boosted 600%. So you can still, however, make out what they're saying, and I'll also tell you what they're saying, but you can hear it. All right, so we're at the 13-minute mark, 13-minute, 36-second. So you can actually go to this video yourself. It's titled Ceremony of Consecration of Pan-Amazon Synod of Bishops to St. Francis of Assisi, the 4th of October, 2019, HD on YouTube. So you can go and watch the actual ceremony. But here's an interesting point. They bring this image to Pope Francis, and notice what they call it. Did you hear it? I am not a native Spanish speaker. I am certainly not fluent in Spanish, but you can hear Nuestra Señora de la Amazonia, Our Lady of the Amazon. Let's hear it again. One more time. Okay, so you can hear, again, the audio is kind of low. However, I have found some clips where the audio has been boosted higher than that, but you can hear it enough to say they're saying in Spanish, Our Lady of the Amazon, whenever they present this to Pope Francis. Might you say this is a bad depiction of the Virgin Mary? Sure. Might you say this is bad optics insofar as it gives the average person the appearance of idolatry? Maybe the average person doesn't have enough of a foundation to really understand what's going on here. Perhaps. I mean, but how far do we carry that one? I mean, because if a person saw us venerating icons during the divine liturgy or something like that, they also might think that it's idolatry, when it's of course not. So I could kind of understand that argument, but let's not take that one too far. At what point do we really say, okay, well, we can't accommodate you guys. We're still going to venerate icons in our liturgy. Um, However, given that this is not very common to do, that is, venerate the Virgin Mary under this appearance, under this symbol, I think that again, it's not necessarily a good idea. So, in my estimation, this was imprudent because the average person might be more used to us venerating icons, but they haven't seen this. Most people haven't seen this image before and would not recognize this to be the Virgin Mary. So, to use this as a symbol to depict the Virgin Mary, probably not the best idea. However, was that their intention? Yes, it certainly was. And so you can't accuse them of idolatry, because ultimately idolatry is going to be something that one intends. Um, just simply bowing to something doesn't automatically make something idolatry, as we see in sacred scripture. And of course, bowing to an image doesn't necessarily make it idolatry either, because we can venerate an icon of St. John the Baptist without worshiping him. Um, so just them merely bowing to this and things like that doesn't necessarily mean it is idolatry. You have to know that that's their intention, and when they're telling you in the external forum that they don't recognize this as some kind of bloodthirsty pagan deity, they actually recognize this as Our Lady of the Amazon. Well, you kind of have to take their word for it. You can't assume that they're guilty of idolatry unless you have some evidence to overrule this evidence that we have here in the external form. So once again, was this maybe imprudent? Gives the appearance of idolatry, perhaps. But can we actually accuse them of it? No. Now, I've taken that position. I've been very clear about it, and I continue to get criticized nonstop as a demon worshiper for taking this position. A demon worshiper, which is absurd. I do recognize that the pagan gods are demons according to sacred scripture, but I don't think that they're worshiping pagan gods here. So, by me saying that this isn't idolatry, first of all, doesn't mean that I would do this. And second of all, it also doesn't mean that I'm a demon worshiper by just simply pointing this out. But, putting that issue to the side, here's my question. Let's just pretend for a moment that people are correct and that this is actually the worship of a demon. All right. So Pope Francis worshiped a demon at the Vatican Gardens. That is effectively what the narrative is. All right. Let's just assume for a moment that that's true. My question is, and I've been asking this question for years, but let me make it very, very clear here on the third anniversary of this event. Why are you in communion with a pope who worships demons? What does that say about you? Why are you in communion with a demon worshiping pope? I was looking through social media earlier today and I saw Eric Ibarra was having a discussion with somebody and he asked them the same question. And this has been a question that I know I've asked, and he's, I think, also been asking for several years now. If what you're saying is true, you're saying you're in communion with a demon worshiping pope. how does that work out for you? Why are you in communion with him? Let's consider this from sacred scripture. I mean, we could talk about being in communion with people in the first millennium, and if you're in communion with a heretic, that makes you guilty also of their sin to an extent, and that puts your own status into question. And so we could have that conversation in the first millennium, but let's actually just go to straight to sacred scripture. Here's what it says. Do not be dismayed, or I'm sorry, mismated with unbelievers or yoked with unbelievers. Do not be mismated with unbelievers. For what partnership have righteousness and iniquity? I'm sorry, for what partnership have righteousness and iniquity? In other words, what kind of union is there between righteousness and sin? No union, obviously. Or what fellowship has light with darkness? Obviously, the answer is no fellowship. What accord has Christ with Belial, which is a demon, by the way? What union does Christ have with a demon? None. Or what has a believer in common with an unbeliever? What agreement has the temple of God with idols? For we are the temple of the living God, as God said. So again, for example, let's ignore the evidence that I just showed to demonstrate this wasn't idolatrous. And let's just put that to the side. Let's ignore it. And let's just say these people are right, that Pope Francis is guilty of idolatry. Well, guess what? You're in communion with an idolatrous, demon-worshiping Pope. And Scripture tells you, what communion do you have with such people? And it's only a matter of time before these people realize they were ripe for the picking. And they actually start to follow through with these questions and say, I don't have any communion with this Pope, so I'm going to go elsewhere. I'm going to say that Pope Benedict is still the Pope, or I'm just going to say that there is no Pope, or I'm going to go to Eastern Orthodoxy, and I'm going to say the Orthodox were right all along, or I'm going to go here, or I'm going to go there. It's only a matter of time before the Catholics who are claiming that Pope Francis is a demon-worshiping Pope, it's only a matter of time before they connect that one dot and say, I shouldn't be in communion with him. I'm going to go elsewhere. Catholic, if you're saying Pope Francis is a demon-worshiping Pope, you are ripe for the picking. You won't be Catholic for very long. You won't. It's only a matter of time. Someone will come around, some set of Acontis apologists will come around and connect the dots for you, and you'll be out the door. Or some Eastern Orthodox apologist. They'll connect the dots for you, and you'll be out the door. Rather than going down that direction, might I challenge you here and say, maybe question your claim that Pope Francis is guilty of idolatry and demon worship. Maybe question that and ask, is he really? And is there evidence to suggest otherwise? And I just presented evidence to suggest otherwise. So maybe if you question those premises, you won't end up with that conclusion that, well, I shouldn't be in communion with this Pope. But I would say it's disingenuous to remain Catholic or to profess to be Catholic, but then say Pope Francis is a demon-worshiping Pope. It's disingenuous because why are you even in communion with this person, yet you're still presenting yourself as a Catholic? Just say that, you know what, Catholicism is wrong, or Pope Francis is the Pope. Maybe go down that direction instead of staying within Catholic churches while working to undermine the Catholic Church. Going to Catholic churches that are in full communion, so parishes that are in full communion, still going to these places, and yet working to undermine it by claiming that Pope Francis is guilty of idol worship. I think that's disingenuous. Just carry your position to its logical conclusion. Or better yet, my thing is, just maybe question your premises to begin with, because that's really where the problem is. The problem isn't that Catholicism is false or the Pope is guilty of idol worship. The problem is you bought into that narrative and you shouldn't have. And there's evidence to tell you that you shouldn't have bought into that. So that's what I hope to do whenever I present this. Unfortunately, not everybody has picked up on that. They still say I'm a demon worshiper. Okay, well, such people probably won't be Catholic for very long anyway, so it really doesn't matter to me what they say. However, I hope this helps serve as a warning to you if you are a Catholic making this claim. I hope you see how you're ripe for the picking, and you might need to question some of the things that you have bought into. Anyways, like I said, I hope this was helpful. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Of course, check me out, patreon.com/Reason and Theology, if you want to support me and what I'm doing here with Reason and Theology. I'll be back in just a little bit for a second stream. We'll see you later. God bless.
Oh wait, before you go, I would really appreciate it if you would consider supporting this channel. This is my primary means to provide for my family, and it also helps me to produce content like this video. If you would like to support me, become a patron by visiting patreon.com/Reason and Theology. You'll also get access to extra exclusive content when you become a patron. Lastly, hit that like button and the subscribe button, and be sure to leave a comment down below. God bless.